Every morning before I wake up, an AI agent I built has a news summary and my to-do list ready on my phone. It works nothing like ChatGPT. It runs completely on its own, and you can build one yourself in about 15 minutes with zero coding. So I'm going to walk you through building your own from scratch until you have it live on your phone. You've probably used ChatGPT or Claude, where you ask a question and it answers. But the moment you close the tab, nothing else happens until you come back. An AI agent works the other way around because instead of waiting for you to ask, you give it a goal once and it carries out the steps on its own, on a schedule, and remembers you from one day to the next. That's what everyone in tech is excited about right now. An assistant that keeps working in the background instead of only running when you open it. You could have it send you a summary of the morning's news at 8 a.m. every day, pull your sales numbers every Monday and tell you how the week went, or work through a long task you hate doing and hand you back the finished result. And because it remembers you, you only ever explain things once. So the more you use it, the more it already knows about how you like things done. The catch with agents until recently is that building one sounded like an impossible job, full of servers and command lines and enough technical setup to make people give up before they start. That's not true anymore, and to show you, I'm going to build a real one from scratch in front of you, using a tool that has all of this built in already. The tool we're building with is open source, completely free to use, and made by a well-known AI research group called Nous Research, and it's called Hermes. What makes Hermes a good first agent is that everything I just described, the memory, the scheduled tasks, the learning, all of it comes built in, so you're not building any of that yourself. It runs on a server instead of a website, it connects to the messaging apps you already use, like Telegram, and it gets better at your work over time instead of starting from scratch every conversation. It also works with basically every major AI model through a service called OpenRouter, including ones from OpenAI and Anthropic, so you're never locked into one company and you can swap the model behind it anytime. And it's not some small experimental project. More than 200,000 developers are already backing it on GitHub, which for something this new is a serious sign that it works. There is one catch though, and it's the reason you can't just run an agent off your own laptop. An agent only does its job if it's actually running, and your laptop goes to sleep the second you close it. So an agent on your own computer stops the moment you walk away. To keep working when you're not there, it needs to run somewhere that stays on around the clock. That somewhere is a VPS, which is just a small computer in the cloud that never turns off, so your agent keeps running too. Setting one of those up used to be the intimidating part with servers and settings and a lot of steps, but that whole process looks nothing like it used to. The fastest way to get Hermes running is through Hostinger's one-click template, and I've left a link in the description that takes you straight to the deploy screen with the discount already applied. On that screen, you'll see the plans on the right. It's set to the one called KVM2. That plan comes with 2 processor cores, 8 GB of memory, and 80 GB of fast storage, which is comfortably more than enough to run Hermes, so you don't need to overthink it. I'll click deploy from there. The billing period defaults to 24 months, but you can drop it to 12 months or even 1. I go with 12 months because you still get most of the savings with that. Just below that, you can switch on daily auto backups and pick your server location, and it already selects the fastest location for you, so you can leave that on the default. As long as you use the link from the description, the discount is applied to your order automatically, so you're getting the best price without hunting for a code. On the right, you can review everything, and when you are ready, go through payment to create your account. After checkout, you land on the Hermes setup screen, and this is the one part you don't want to rush. It shows you a username and a password. The username is set to Hermes, and you can leave it exactly as it is, but the password is generated for you. So copy it and save it somewhere safe right now, because you'll need it to log into your server later. Once you click deploy, Hostinger starts building your server and installing Hermes for you, and after a couple of minutes, you'll land on your dashboard. You'll also see Trafic near the bottom, which just handles the networking behind the scenes, so you can ignore it. The Hermes project name ends in 4 random characters, something like Hermes Agent IQFW, and you'll need those 4 characters in a second, so keep that tab open. In the top right of the dashboard, there's a button called Terminal, and clicking it opens a window called the Web Terminal. This next part is the only spot that looks technical, and it's where a lot of people give up, so stay with me here, because it's much simpler than it looks. The Web Terminal is just a window where you type a few commands to your server, and the good news is you only have to touch it once during this setup. The first thing I'll do is open the Hermes folder, so I'll paste in this command with those 4 characters from the dashboard added onto the end and press enter. Then I'll paste in the next command to open Hermes itself and press enter, and now I'm talking to it directly. From there, I'll type Hermes setup and hit enter, and that starts a setup wizard that takes you through the rest. It first asks whether you want a quick setup or a full one, and I will go with the full setup so we can get into it with a bit more detail. The first thing the wizard wants is which AI provider you want to use, and I'll pick OpenRouter. The reason is that OpenRouter gives you access to over 400 different AI models with a single key, and you can switch between them later with one command, so you're not committing to anything now. To get that key, I'll go to openrouter.ai, create a free account, and click Create API Key, which is basically a password that lets Hermes talk to the AI models for you. I'd set a spending limit while you're there, something like $25 a month, so there's no way to accidentally spend more than you planned while you're testing. You also have to add some credits to your OpenRouter account, because the key won't actually work until there's a balance on it, even though it's already created. Once that's done, I'll paste the key back into Hermes, and then I'll pick which model it uses. If you want to keep this as cheap as possible, OpenRouter has free models, including one called Owl Alpha that's built for agent work and won't cost you anything. If you want stronger results, models like GPT 5.5 or Claude Sonnet work really well, and most tasks cost somewhere between a few cents and a couple of dollars depending on how big they are. There's also a setting called auto routing, which lets Hermes choose the model for each task on its own, sending simple jobs to a cheap model and harder ones to a stronger model, so you save money without thinking about it. From the moment you clicked deploy to the point where Hermes is ready to talk, you're looking at about 10 minutes, and most of that was just waiting for the server to finish setting up. Right now, Hermes is running, but you can only reach it through that terminal window, and you'd have to keep it open forever to use it, which defeats the entire point of an agent that runs on its own. And fixing that is where you finally get to use your agent from your phone. The setup wizard picks up right where we left off, and now it asks which messaging app you want to connect. You'll see Telegram, Discord, Slack, WhatsApp, Signal, and email in the list, and I'll go with Telegram because it's free, fast, and works on every device. It asks for two things: a bot token and your Telegram user ID, and both take about a minute to grab. For the bot token, I'll open Telegram, search for a user called BotFather, and send a message /newbot. BotFather asks me to name the bot and give it a username that ends in the word bot, and once I do that, it sends back a long token, which I'll copy and paste into Hermes. For the user ID, I'll search for another bot called UserInfoBot, and I'll send start, and it instantly shows me my number, which I'll copy and paste into Hermes as well. Hermes then asks if I want to use that as my home channel, which is just where it sends scheduled results and notifications, and I'll press Y to confirm. That finishes the wizard, but there's one last step before your agent is up and running. You have to start what's called the gateway, which is the part that keeps Hermes connected to Telegram all the time and listening for your messages. So I'll paste in the command that starts the gateway and press enter. Now I'll open my bot in Telegram, send it a message, and there it is. Hermes answers back, and at this point, you've officially built and deployed your first AI agent. Take a second with that, because everything from here is just teaching it what you want. If that gateway ever stops running, your messages go unanswered and your scheduled tasks won't happen. So it's the first thing to check if your agent ever stops responding. A setup I'd recommend right away is making a Telegram group for your bot and turning on topics in the group settings, which lets you keep separate threads for different jobs, like one for social media, one for your numbers, and one for personal tasks, so it doesn't all end up in one messy chat. For topics to work, go back to BotFather, open your bot's settings, and turn off group privacy. Otherwise, the bot can't read messages inside the group. You'll also want to make the bot an admin of that group, so it's allowed to reply. And if you'd rather talk than type, Telegram lets you send voice messages, and Hermes will turn them into text and respond, so you can give it a task while you're away from your desk. With your agent live and listening, you can start teaching it to actually do things for you on its own. And you're completely done with a terminal now, because everything from here, every task, every schedule, and every preference happens right inside the same Telegram chat you just used. The first thing I'll set up is scheduling, because it's the feature that does the most for you on its own. To set up a scheduled task, you just tell Hermes what you want in plain English. If I type create a cron job that sends me a tech news summary every morning at 8 a.m., Hermes sets the schedule, picks where to send it, and confirms the whole thing back to me. I'll set up one more, and this time I'll type every Monday at 8:30 a.m., pull the latest sales data, and send me a summary of how this week did compared to last week. Hermes creates the job, shows me the schedule, and from then on, that report shows up in my Telegram every Monday morning without me sending a single message. If I ever want to see what's running, I just type, show me a list of all current jobs, and it lists them out with their times, and I can pause, change, or delete any of them right there in the chat. This is the part beginners underestimate, because once a few of these are running, your agent is doing real work for you every single day while you're busy with something else. Skills work the same way, without you managing them. Every time you finish a task that took a few back and forth steps, Hermes looks at what worked on its own and saves that whole process as a skill you can reuse. So if you spend 15 minutes getting a social media post exactly right, fixing the tone and the format along the way, Hermes remembers that, and the next time you just say, create a social media post, it runs the saved process and handles it in one step. You can also create a skill on purpose by saying something like, take what we just did and save it as a skill called Weekly Report Builder, and then you can call it by name anytime. And the newest version even has a built-in curator that looks over your saved skills every week, grades them, merges ones that overlap, and clears out the ones you've stopped using. So your library stays tidy on its own. The last piece is memory, and it's controlled by 3 simple files that you never actually have to open. The first sets your agent's personality, whether you want it casual and friendly or short and professional. The second sets the rules for how it does your work, like your preferred writing tone or how you want things laid out. And the third is its memory of you, holding things like your name, your job, your projects, and your preferences, and it updates that on its own as you talk to it. You don't edit any of these by hand, you just tell Hermes in Telegram. If I type, remember that I prefer short and direct answers with no long explanations unless I ask, it saves that and uses it in every conversation after that. The more you tell it about yourself and how you work, the better every single answer gets, because it uses your personality, your rules, and your context before it replies. And once you've got tasks running and skills building on their own, there are 2 last things worth knowing before you trust it with bigger jobs: keeping it safe and keeping it cheap. Hermes is secure by default, and there are 4 built-in protections that matter, especially when you're just starting. The first is that only people you approved during setup can talk to your agent, so even if someone found your bot on Telegram, it would ignore them completely. The second is that Hermes runs in its own separate space on the server, which means even if something went wrong, it can't affect anything else on your system, and you get that protection for free with a one-click install. The third is that if your agent ever tries to do something risky, like deleting files or making a big change, it stops and asks you to approve it first. So always read those messages before you say yes. And the fourth is that whenever you add a new skill, Hermes checks it for unsafe code before it's allowed to run. My honest advice for your first week is to keep it simple. Stick to Telegram, pick 1 or 2 tasks that actually solve a problem you have, and don't connect anything sensitive like your email or banking until you trust how it behaves. The other thing to watch is cost, and the way to keep it down is matching the model to the job. You don't need your most expensive model answering simple questions, so you keep cheap or free models on routine tasks and save the strong ones for the real thinking. In Telegram, you can type /model to see what you're using and switch to any other model instantly. And if you want one specific job to use a smarter model, you just say run the weekly report builder on Opus 4.7 instead of my default, and Hermes changes that one job while everything else stays on the cheaper option. The software itself is completely free and open source. It comes with over 100 ready-made skills, works across multiple messaging apps, and connects to more than 400 AI models. So the only thing you ever pay for is the server it runs on and the small cost of the AI it uses. And the part that made this whole thing really easy was the one-click Hostinger setup, which turned the hardest step into a couple of clicks. So grab the link below and you'll have your own agent online in about 15 minutes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.